Here we see a British frigate carefully monitoring a Russian submarine's movements. Tracking submarines, especially those belonging to potential adversaries, is standard operating procedure for the Royal Navy. The UK Ministry of Defense maintains a heightened state of alert. Some might even say they're paranoid. They fear that Russian submarines could covertly target and potentially sever vital underwater communication cables, which would be a disaster. The history of underwater warfare stretches far back, all the way to ancient times. Even the fleets of the ancient Greeks employed combat swimmers, and they were called scaphandra, which literally translates to man-boat in Greek. We even have written records detailing the first combat operation carried out by divers. It was during the siege of Syracuse in the 5th century BC, and they cleared underwater obstacles in the harbor to make way for the Athenian squadron. And legend has it that Alexander the Great himself designed, built, and tested the prototype of what would become the first submarine.
So they built this massive glass vessel, like as tall as a man could be. He actually climbed right into it, and then they submerged the whole thing in the water. And from inside, he was finally able to see the barrier that was underwater. Well, anyway, it's not exactly a submarine, it's just a diving bull.
So the very first submarine in recorded history was actually designed way back in the 17th century by Cornelius Drebbel. He was a Dutchman working for the British Empire at the time. What he did was take a regular, ordinary rowboat, and then he covered the entire thing with waterproof leather to seal it up. The very first test of this submarine took place on the Thames River in 1620, and King James I was actually there to witness it. We have a vivid account of these trials from an eyewitness, the famous Dutch poet Constantijn Huygens, who was there.
He calmly dove underwater, holding the king and thousands of Londoners in suspense, wondering what he was doing down there. Just imagine how incredibly useful this bold invention would have been, especially in wartime scenarios. It could have been used for secretly attacking and sinking enemy ships safely at anchor, giving us a huge advantage.
He calmly dove underwater, holding the king and thousands of Londoners in suspense, wondering what he was doing down there. However, the Lords of the Admiralty weren't particularly interested in Drebbel's boat. It wasn't adopted by the British Navy, but the future enemies of the British, the Americans, proved more far-sighted. They recognized the strategic advantages of a submarine fleet and used the submarine against the British Navy during the War of Independence. The combat submarine, called the Turtle, was developed by designer David Bushnell.
It's incredibly cramped and stuffy in here, isn't it? And there's no engine at all. Can you believe these pedals actually powered the entire boat? They turn the propeller, and the ballast tanks control the diving and surfacing of the vessel. It's quite ingenious, really.
Bushnell's Turtle was cleverly designed for stealth. The plan was to sneak up to enemy ships, attach a mine to the hull, and escape before it exploded. On September 7, 1776, it attacked the British flagship, the Eagle, but the mission failed. The sub couldn't attach the explosive, and the Turtle retreated without completing its objective. During the 18th century, Russian inventors also began designing their own submarines. For example, in 1719, a peasant named Yefim Nikonov sent a formal petition to Emperor Peter the Great. In this petition, Nikonov claimed that he had invented a secret vessel. He said this vessel was capable of sinking enemy ships, giving Russia a major advantage in naval warfare.
If you, Yefim Nikonov, an inventor, flipped a second sturdy wooden boat on top of an identical one, he sealed the seams with tar, leather, anything he could find, and just like that he crafted a submarine fit for deep diving.
The secret vessel was rigorously tested on the Neva River before the Emperor and proved successful. However, Nikonov's submarine never saw battle. After Peter the Great's death, the inventor fell out of favor and was demoted from master craftsman to carpenter. He was then exiled to the Astrakhan shipyard. It took Russia a century and a half to establish serial production of combat submarines. In 1879, inventor Stepan Zhavetsky demonstrated an underwater mine apparatus to Alexander III. Zhavetsky maneuvered under a boat with the Tsar and his wife, Maria Feodorovna, aboard. The inventor detonated a mine on a target raft and then presented the Empress with a bouquet of her favorite orchids. Zhavetsky's submarines were equipped with electric batteries and mass production was initiated. Indeed, one of these submarines, although heavily modernized with updated tech, even participated in the Russo-Japanese War in the defense of Port Arthur, playing a role in naval operations. During World War I, Russian submarines sank dozens of enemy ships and decided the outcome of several important battles. Interestingly, Russia's opponent, Germany, initially had no plans to build a submarine fleet. That's right, speaking of which, a German U-boat attack drastically changed the balance of power in World War I. It was a truly devastating event. On May 7, 1915, a German submarine mercilessly torpedoed the British passenger liner Lusitania, resulting in the tragic deaths of 1,197 people. Among them were 128 U.S. citizens. This horrific attack became one of the key reasons that pushed the United States to finally enter the war against Germany. Following the end of World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was signed, which explicitly forbade Germany from constructing or maintaining a submarine fleet. This changed when Hitler rose to power and submarine production was quickly resumed in defiance of the treaty. Kriegsmarine Admiral Dönitz then masterminded the infamous Wolfpack tactic. Instead of individual submarines attacking Allied ships, they would coordinate and strike in groups. This strategy proved to be incredibly effective and devastating. For a significant portion of the war, Dönitz's Wolfpacks reigned supreme throughout the Atlantic, posing a major threat.
They blockaded the British Isles very tightly, and that really worried Churchill quite a bit. Yes, because England has always depended on its colonies and on external supplies for survival.
In the late 80s, Danish explorer Ole Jensen made a fascinating discovery. He found the Nazi U-boat U-534 at the bottom of the Kattegatsu Strait. A popular theory suggests these submarines transported Third Reich gold as the war ended. 1. As the Cold War began and the nuclear arms race intensified, leading global powers initiated the development of nuclear submarines. In 1954, the Americans achieved a significant milestone by constructing the world's first combat-ready nuclear submarine, the Nautilus. Shortly after, just 3 years later, Soviet submariners proudly launched their very first nuclear submarine, known as the Leninsky Komsomol. For many decades, the superpowers engaged in fierce competition, striving to develop increasingly advanced nuclear submarines. Ultimately, the USSR emerged as the victor in this intense confrontation. During the 70s, Soviet engineers achieved a remarkable feat by developing the world's largest submarine, the Akula, also known as a Project 941 nuclear-powered cruiser. To give you an idea of its immense size, this submarine is approximately the height of a 9-story building.
Imagine a whole underwater city where people actually live, complete with the opportunity to swim in a pool. There's even a recreation area where you can relax, listen to live birds, and go to the sauna for a nice steam. And the best part is, all of this can go to a considerable depth for several months at a time. Such a submarine could stay hidden anywhere, retaining the capability for a surprise missile launch.
So in total, the USSR is the world's largest nuclear submarine. The USSR actually built 6 Project 941 strategic missile submarines, which is quite a feat of engineering. However, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, unfortunately 3 of these Akula submarines were scrapped, and the remaining 3 were also decommissioned. Eventually, the Borei-class submarines came along and replaced these Soviet atomic monsters.